Life Audio.
Today on Talk About That, John learns the origins of the slang term Rizz and raises a celebratory toast to 17th century Massachusetts. Meanwhile, I haunt my own car while it's in the repair shop and tell John why being the opener as a comedian can sometimes be a real sweet spot. Plus a conversation about idols and order and how misplaced priorities can lead to all kinds of problems. Today's episode is not sponsored by Stanley Cups. If you own one, you also probably have to pee a lot. But first, a word from our actual sponsor.
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Talk About That. I'm John here, colorful co-host Jonnie W.
Yeah,
You do. You bring the color commentary.
I had a splash of verve, some gravitas,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't know.
Can you come up with something that Gen Z would say about you?
I think they would say that I'm lit.
Really?
No.
That you have some Rizz? See, they get so upset if we said these things.
You know, I figured out what Rizz comes from. Did you know this? Do you know what Rizz comes from? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is like a trick.
All right, hit me with it.
Charisma.
Oh, that's right.
That's what it's from.
I did hear that. Yeah.
So it's like, this guy's got Rizz.
Yeah. I'm not going to dog the Gen Zs.
Yeah,
I hope they're listening right now. They're not. But
it's weird too, because when we grew up, like if somebody said somebody was like very charismatic, it meant something vastly different
Right.
to us. Be like, oh boy,
oh man,
he's going to push me in the floor.
Right, get your flags.
Yeah. And this guy, he's so charismatic. What a charismatic leader. I'd be like, oh, we're voting for this guy?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Really? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Is every state of the union going to be a tent revival? He's a very charismatic leader? Oh, no.
Oh, man.
But that's not what it meant.
There's a lot of stories from our past that we do not tell on the podcast.
Yeah.
From the circles of what you're saying.
Right.
Because they're funny.
It's odd because like I feel like I want to tell the whole thing, but I'm oddly protective of. It's almost, some of it's unbelievable too, because it makes people. Here's part of it too. There's a shame in there because it's also like people go like, "You went back?" Like people, you went back to camp the next year.
Yeah, no,
you're like, no, we did. We went every year. We loved it.
It's 100% shame for me.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I'm not saying that that everything that happened was shameful or whatever.
Yeah.
But if I told you like the craziest things, that's when you go, oh,
yeah.
You know.
But don't you think every subculture has like some like that? Because like when I'll give you an example. When I got into comedy, a lot of my market was church comics.
Yeah.
And people who work clean and all that. And so a lot of it was very vanilla and very kind of old-fashioned, very safe.
Yeah.
And I was trying to do something with more of like a club rhythm, more like I focus on laughs per minute, like really get good to have a broader appeal. But I was working in church circles, and that was my network of people that I worked with. And so I was like, this is great. It's fine. I'm going to do what I do, but in this market. And what I found was we started going to these conferences, and these conferences were like a lot of Christian comics.
Yeah.
That they would come, that we had to think called the CCA. The CCA was something I really believed in and had a burden for because I started there. That's where I kind of had what I would say my pilot light was lit there, where I was like, oh, this could be something if I took seriously, I could be good at. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people really poured into me and they mentored me that were really good at what they did. But along with it were a lot of fringe comics. And I would feel like this weird burden for the CCA, but also an embarrassment of that fringe.
Right, of that side of it.
Yeah. And then I started doing comedy in clubs. Mm-hmm. And in a club scene, and I'd go to open mics, and it was very refreshing to see that there were fringe comics in that scene too.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was like, oh, there's the crazy guy that's been doing comedy for 15 years and doesn't have a funny joke, but he comes back every night.
Well, who lets him in a club?
And nobody will say anything. Well, no, I'm talking about like at open mics and bars and stuff.
Okay.
Or like a comedy club that has an open mic where you just sign up and you go up and they just go, all right, here's Dave.
Yeah.
And bless his heart, but nobody's told him, he's getting laughs for like the wrong reason and doesn't know it. And he'll never change. But anyway, it was almost like refreshing to see that like, here's a subculture that I thought was immune to this. I thought, well, this will self-police, unlike my Christian circle.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
It doesn't.
No.
No.
So it's like, it made me feel some better, honestly.
Yeah.
And I think so it made me go like, every subculture has like a little bit of a like, things we cringe at, and you just go, well, it's just part of it.
I have like this respect for someone who persists despite having no success.
Yeah.
Like there's a like, okay, they really like, and I think that would be the question I would ask someone who's in that circle.
Well, that's the truth.
It's like, do you want to go do this for a living, or do you just enjoy doing this and you're cool with who you are?
That's absolutely true. And to be fair, like I did learn more around those folks. Is that a lot of them do. They're just hobbyists, or they just go, this is just fun for me, and I have no problem with that person.
No.
So I don't mean any malice towards it when I say that. I'm not like looking down from like, oh, these people, and rolling my eyes. Listen, I know people now in my life, and I'm trying so hard not to be that person, but I would summarize some people's personality as an eye roll. And I'm trying so hard not to be that in my life now, because I realize like, oh, wow, I need to watch that about myself. So I don't mean that by it. So, let me self-correct a little bit on that.
Well, no, I do. I have that like, I go.
There is like, it's Rudy. It's a Rudy. I would say like, are they there because they love Notre Dame and they don't care if they ever get in the game? They're going to be a great teammate, and then they're going to have their moment one day. Like,
right.
You never know. You could be around a Rudy. John, I feel like you're this show's Rudy. You're Rudy Rudiger.
It's funny because I was thinking about the other day, I told someone, like, whatever it is you think in ministry is like the apex of your goal. Yeah. Which is interesting that we've sort of overlaid ministry with a lot of business sort of terms now.
Yeah, we did it to ourselves. But
hierarchy, it's if you get to the lead position, then you're like the CEO. And it's
number of people, and that becomes a number that you chase.
Yeah.
Mega church originally was 1,000 people.
Right.
Now they say, mega church now is 2,000.
Oh, wow.
I read that in an article that they go, well, mega churches that are defined as 2,000 plus members. And I'm like, well, mega used to mean 1,000 because that's where the mega.
Did I tell you I was collaborating on a book, and the editor had added in, for the people I was writing for used to pastor a mega church, like 20,000.
Yeah.
It was like they changed it from church to the church we used to pastor to the mega church we used to pastor.
Yeah.
And in my edits, I was like, I've worked with a lot of mega church pastors, and I don't know one of them that wants that. Yeah,
because it's such a negative connotation now.
It basically states like, we're just here for the show, kind of thing. We're not really, doing
Well, it just means something. It's weird. It's a word that I think Christian is even a word now that means something different to whoever is hearing it.
Yeah.
And so you're almost like careful of it. I've heard people that they totally pivoted, 10 years ago to now their bio doesn't say Christian. It says follower of Jesus, or, you know what I'm saying? Or Christ follower.
Yeah.
Because you knew like Christian might have a negative connotation to the reader of this.
Right.
And so absolutely. Megachurch is definitely one of those words. It's become like it's infused with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And not all positive.
Interesting. And to that point of the church, like I had the thought, someone was asking me about where things go. And I was like, look, if you think of being in the top position as like being king, I'm thinking about David.
Yeah.
All the worst things in the world happened to David when he finally got the thing that he had been promised, 40 years earlier or whatever. That's when all the stuff fell apart. Like David was at his best when he was a shepherd. He was happier. If you go back and look, like he's a shepherd. He's writing songs. He's a writer.
Right.
He's a warrior. Right. He's going to battle. I mean, like he's that.
Or like even as Saul's underling, he was like he's basically in fear for his life from this abusive leader.
Yeah.
But he's like honing his skills.
Right.
For diplomacy and for musicianship and for all the other things he's hearing from God.
Yep.
But it's like he's basically afraid of this abusive leader every day, too.
Well, and he's choosing humility the whole time, right? Because he could overthrow, that leader. But in the end, when he became the leader, there were times he was the abusive leader. That idea of, there's like, I don't know, there's something, maybe it's being in your 40s. I know some people have it in their teens, I guess. But I think the goal of everything shouldn't be to be in charge.
Yeah.
Though some things would be easier, right, in life but also if you can barely find an example where things weren't more complicated or.
Yeah. I've worked for myself for 16 years now, and I love it, or I wouldn't do it. But the hardest thing is that you have nobody to blame but yourself if it goes bad.
Yeah.
That's the part of it that nobody wants to talk about in small business is like, oh, the government taxes me more and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but also like if something goes off the rails, like it's usually your fault. Yeah. There's a thing you didn't do that you should have done. You forgot to send in this thing, or you decided to take an extra vacation day, or whatever it is. Like you can't really like the ability to blame shift to your evil boss is kind of a privilege that self-employed people don't have, because we're just like, we can't be like, if the bosses would just give me that promotion. It's like, look, you've been promoted. You got it.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. No, well, one, that's why you get agents. You can blame them.
But, that's true. It is. Yeah, the blame shifting, it never ends.
But like I have the privilege of having a great boss, and a boss who lets me do almost anything I want to do. And I have felt that. Like, oh, okay. Right. You get a chance to be in charge of some things, and when they don't work out, you're like, okay, but this is great.
Right.
I don't have to bear the full brunt of it. Why do we always assume if we did it our way, it's just a human thing?
That Frank Sinatra was a liar. My way. No, my way or the highway, as the prophet Fred Durst once said. Listen, John, what I'm saying is, though, when I was talking, well, I'll say this coming after the break, because we have the break coming up. We got a hard out coming, John.
I think you should take us there.
Should I?
Yeah.
John, some of y'all have been doing it your way, but let's talk about another way. Let's hear from a few of our fine sponsors.
See, it's not as easy as you think, is it?
Oh, what a cavalcade of products we were just exposed to.
Like everybody's like, oh, why doesn't John have a better, out? Actually, no one's ever said that.
No one.
Probably.
But listen, so along those lines, what we were just talking about, like speaking to my comedian friends who've been doing comedy for years and years, and if you ask them, well, I'd say they'd all give different responses. But one of the wisest people I know is a guy named Rick Roberts, who's been doing comedy, 30 years probably. And super humble guy, very successful. And he started out in clubs. And he said that his favorite part of his career, as far as like the comedy part, I mean, obviously he likes having a paid for house and all those things that come along with having a 30-year comedy career, that you've kind of been under the radar, but you're very successful. He's a very successful person. But he said his favorite part, as far as like if you take the comedy part, was when he was a feature. So if you have a club show, usually is 3 parts. It's a host who does about 10 minutes. Then he'll bring up the feature, who sometimes is called the opener.
Or the thorax.
Right, the thorax of the show.
Right in the middle.
He'll do 20 to 25 minutes. And then the headliner has to come up and do usually 45 to 60 minutes. And so it's a nice tight 90-minute show. And when you're the feature, you're brought in, you're not paid a ton of money, but you usually have a room to stay in. They put you in a comedy condo, and you don't have a ton of bills that, if you're in your 20s or whatever, like Rick was when he started. I didn't start till I was in my 30s. This would not have been a heyday for me.
Yeah.
But I will say I've done some shows where I was opening, like when I opened for Nate on tour is a great example. Nate Bargatze's the biggest selling comedian in the world right now, bar none. And he's doing basketball arenas. I'm a complete throw-in. Right. They go, hey, before we get Nate, let's get to some of his friends that he's brought along the road. And the crowd is kind of like, they're kind of golf clapping for you. And you go up. But there's no pressure on you to be amazing.
No, they're not expecting anything.
If you are amazing, you know, and I had some good nights out there on tour with Nate, which were so fun because those crowds are like ready. They're so amped up. And it's so great, but it's like there's no expectation. When you're the headliner, they've plunked down vacation days. They've bought a ticket. Yeah. They've driven. They got in their car. They came. Your name is on the ticket. Buddy, you better bring it.
Yeah.
So that nice sweet spot of being the feature is what Rick was talking about. He's like, I liked that moment because you do your 20, 25 minutes, and if you kill, great. If you don't kill, it's like you at least killed time. You got the crowd warmed up.
Yeah.
And it's a nice fun. And you don't have to give away all your material to these people either. So you can come back to that same town later on as a headliner maybe. You've not given away your whole hour to them.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's interesting, like you said, when you're expected, those expectations go up, you know, the reward is way higher, you know. Nate lives in a nicer house than me, but the expectations and the preparation and the grind on him is more than what I'm experiencing right now in my career too. So I would just say, like, be careful what you wish for sometimes. It's a lot. You got to count the cost, John.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you would.
I've had my name on books as a with, and I've had my name on books as myself or as an and or just the author. And I will tell you the pressure level.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother place because you're suddenly aware, this is all, they're counting on me to, I don't know if I can go sell a bunch of these. But when you're just the guy collaborating, you can still claim it as a project you're a part of. And if it does well, great.
Right.
If it doesn't, no one ever blames the writer. They'll blame the author, the publisher. Maybe some of them are blaming me.
Yeah.
Maybe, what if I just don't know? You don't hear about blame a lot of the time. It's happening. You know what I'm saying? If you ever hear about it, it's probably pretty bad.
You're just not in the room when they're blaming you, John.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
I get those calls.
You're the one. It's interesting that they
What
would
are
call
we going to
you.
do about this book? It's flopping.
Let's call Johnny.
I go, how'd you get my number? They go, it's a long story.
Johnny, it's about that time.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Oh, we're going to go into John's quote of the week?
It's the little segment we call They Talked About That.
Ooh,
you had a little pitchy there, dog.
Pitchy, I apologize. I've been sick.
This is an unknown. I don't know who said it.
Oh.
But it's quoted by a known. So I'm going to just read this sort of middle part because I think this is a really fascinating quote. And then I'll tell you what excerpt it fell into. It ceases to be a devil when it ceases to be a god. It ceases to be a devil when it ceases to be a god.
I've never heard that quote.
I haven't either. And so it's actually from a C.S. Lewis-like thing, but here's what he says. He's talking about art, actually, in one of his letters. He goes, in fact, one can say of art, as an author I recently read says of love, sensual love, I mean. So the original, he had read someone, he just doesn't know who it was, but that their quote about sensual love is, if you're struggling, it ceases to be a devil when it ceases to be a god.
Yeah.
And he says, isn't that well put? So many things, nay, every real thing is good, if only it will be humble and ordinate.
Yeah.
So ordinate's the key word here. Like, how many things in our life, because of its order,
right,
is the problem, right? It's and we talk about that in church a lot. It's about the correct order of things. We did a whole series called Out of Order on that. Like, it's generally not, like, God doesn't say that you can't seek after the things in life that you need. He just says, seek first this, and then these other things, actually, put in the right order, will be taken care of for you. And I think that sometimes we're in such an extreme culture that even faith or Christianity, it's like, it's a all or nothing sort of mentality, which it is in terms of our life is all Christ and all those things. But I'm speaking more about the daily life of it. This sense of, I'm never good enough because I never find a way to only worship God or whatever, not recognizing you can't only worship God. You worship God by the reordering of your life according to his ways, meaning you're going to do the other things.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to go be a monk or a contemplative or a desert father or mother. Like, there are people, they literally live their lives, but even those folks in general, we're feeding somebody, writing something, helping others in some way. But there has to be this place in life where I recognize most of the things that feel difficult to me are probably, unless we're talking about, again, overt sins or harmful addictions, things like that. But if we're just talking about the normal, regular things, my job, my sense of well-being in my job or in my relationships, right? For some people, it's if I could just be in that romantic relationship, I would be fulfilled. For others, we all have whatever those things are. If I could have this amount of money or whatever. And the desire for those things is not usually the problem. It's generally whether or not that desire is at the very top of the list. Because if I want it to be just rightly ordered, I just need to make sure, and I actually pray that a lot these days, I will name things that for that day, and I almost picture like a shelf, that they're elevated in my life. And for me, so you know what those things are, I don't mind being vulnerable here, like security for my daughter, as a dad of a
number one podcast.
Yeah, I want to have guys, I want to be famous. No, but I will spin out. In fact, she told me this week, my daughter said to me this week, she said, sometimes when you're trying to make me less anxious, you're so anxious, you're making me anxious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's my own words. Like, you're so worried about making sure that I'm okay.
Right. She can see it on your face.
That you're feeling it. And I was, and that's a book I worked on. We're talking about parenting. It was a key statement was parents need to show up as a non-anxious presence. Like, that's the number one thing you can give your kid, be a non-anxious presence. And I was like, so today for me, it's not like anxiety is my idol. But whatever it is I feel that I need to control, or I need to fix, or I need to understand, or I need to work out, which does not mean I don't need to do those things. Mm-hmm. But when they have become now the all-consuming thing where I'm not going to be okay, then I need to take them off the shelf, and then I confess those things like, God, I don't want the desire for that or the pursuit of even a good thing to be an idol, because it is not because out of an evil idol way, but because I know this won't satisfy. Like, this is not going to get me where I need it to be. And I need you to be first and seek first the right things, not out of a, like, oh, God's disappointed in me, but more out of a sense of, I've already lived long enough to know I'm not going to find peace in any of those other things. If I do all the things, but not the most important things, or don't find my self-worth or my peace or my security in the right things I have to return to every day, then trust me, guys, I've known, I've been there. It's not going to happen. Like, it's not found elsewhere. So I wish you'd do better with this.
I'm going to, and we're going to get you that number one podcast, buddy.
Are we going to do it?
I don't know.
We're working.
It may not be this one. you may be a whiff. Let me just say that.
I'd be fine with that.
Okay, good. John, let's listen. We got some response about this one because John. We've been calling this segment Johnny's Old Jokes,
right?
But somebody said, "Why aren't you calling this joke about that?" And I was like, "It was right there."
It was. I don't think I saw that comment. Was that on social media?
It may have come like as a private message to me.
Oh, I see, guys. So this really is a with situation.
Somebody's doing a little backdoor. They're subverting the system.
We'll send this to the real host of the show. You know what?
Anyway.
I put that pride down today. It's not even at number one.
Anyway, I'm not going to take his advice. We're going to call this Johnny's Old Joke. No, we're going to call this Joke About That. This is another anonymous. This is one of those street jokes. I'd never heard this one, though.
There's a lot of anonymous things today.
There is, and that's okay. Maybe what if it was the same person that wrote both these things? Wouldn't that be something? A really well-rounded person?
Oh, my goodness.
I'd like to think I'm a little philosophical and also write jokes. So
perhaps they spanned multiple centuries. Wouldn't
that be something? You're saying that they're a vampire or something?
I didn't say it. You said it.
Like an Edward Cullen situation?
All right, here we go.
If you're let me say, so this is one of those, like, somebody dies and goes to the afterlife.
I love those.
So there's conversations between God and the devil. There's a million jokes like this, but an engineer dies and reports to the pearly gates. St. Peter checks his dossier and says, you're an engineer. You're assigned to hell. So right off the bat. So the engineer reports to the gates of hell and is let in. Pretty soon the engineer gets dissatisfied with the level of accommodations and starts designing and building improvements. After a while, they've got air conditioning, flush toilets, escalators, elevators, and so on. The engineer is a pretty popular guy. One day, God calls Satan on the telephone. So how's it going down there in hell? God says. This is very very theologically
questionable joke.
How's it going down there in hell?
It sounds exactly like something God would say.
Yeah. Hey, things are going great. We've got air conditioning, flush toilets, escalators. There's no telling what our engineer is going to come up with next, Satan says. What? You've got an engineer? That's a mistake. He should never have gotten down there. Send him back immediately, God says. No way. I like having an engineer on the staff. I'm keeping him, says Satan. Send him back up here or I'll sue, God says.
Jeez.
Satan laughs uproariously and answers, yeah, right. And just where are you going to get a lawyer? Hey! Okay. You see, because all the lawyers.
Right.
Okay.
That's one of my favorite misdirection things. It's one of those old jokes. I'm sure you haven't used it yet, but like the kid in the class and the Christian or he's trying to talk down the secular professor or the secular teacher, and they're like, well, when I get to heaven, what if you don't get to heaven? If I get to heaven, then I can ask God this. Well, what if you don't make it to heaven? Oh, well, then you can ask him or whatever. So
turn the old tables on him.
There you go.
And that was Johnny's Old Jokes. It's a segment we call Joke About That now from heretofore.
It was a long joke.
It was. It's a payoff, though. There's a payoff of, hey, all lawyers are evil.
Yeah.
It's what I guess.
Well, I mean, it came out of nowhere. Because again, the engineer, you're thinking, what do they have against engineers?
Right.
In this joke, and it wasn't about engineers at all.
It was a very pro-engineer.
I would say
joke.
That. Yeah. Those are my favorite.
Isn't it interesting that you could be a train engineer and like a civil engineer, and they're totally different? Those are really different jobs.
I wonder if people enter engineering just thinking, the first day in class,
they get to the second year, like, where am I going to get my cool cap?
Right, where's the stripy white and black hat?
When do we start learning about coal?
No one said toot toot or anything.
Yeah, I brought my whistle. Okay. This is upsetting. John, let's do This Week in History to close the show. It's a segment we call Talk About Then. John, this week, 1916, the first self-serve grocery store. I didn't even know about the history of all this, but do you know what the first self-serve grocery store was?
Hold on.
I think you're going to be surprised.
Piggly.
It was. You got it.
I watched the documentary.
Oh.
This is on the Food That Built America.
You didn't have to say any of that. You could have just been like, I know all about grocery stores. We would have thought you were a genius.
I was shocked I remembered it. I was thinking Piggly.
Piggly Wiggly, the first true self-service grocery store, is founded. The first store opened several days later in Memphis, Tennessee. The concept was the brainchild of Clarence Saunders. Prior to this, grocery stores did not allow customers to gather their own goods. The customer would give a list of items to a clerk who would go get them for you. Allowing customers to just go through the store and gather their own goods cut costs, thus lowering prices. So this is good side of capitalism at work. Losses due to increased shoplifting were offset by lower operating costs and increased impulse shopping. So that's kind of now we're getting impulse buying.
Because you brought a list before, and now you see stuff, and you're like, I want that too.
I want that. Customers entered the store through a turnstile and walked down 4 aisles to view the 605 items available. I don't know why 605 was that's what every store.
I think it's just what it was.
605 items available, selecting merchandise as they worked their way to the cashier. This also created a need for companies to develop packaging and brand recognition. So now it's all about how high are you on the shelf? Are you eye level? Are you down at the bottom? Who do we punish down here? We're going to put this peanut butter down here because of whatever. So the whole thing happens. The self-serving store idea was patented by Saunders in I don't know how you patent an idea like that, but it was patented in 1917. Why Piggly Wiggly? Do you know the answer to this from your fancy documentary?
Why Piggly Wiggly?
Why was it called Piggly Wiggly?
Oh, man.
It's real dumb.
I don't remember this.
Once when Saunders was asked why he had chosen such an unusual name for his store, he replied, so people will ask that very question.
I don't know if that's dumb or not.
All right, come on, Saunders.
I mean, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, when you start something, you can do that. When you do something,
why is it not Wiggly Piggly? You know what I'm saying?
Right. You wouldn't. Yeah, that's interesting.
Like it's the adjective on the end.
Yeah.
It's a wiggly.
But you do that in Spanish sometimes.
But I don't think that
it's Piggly-o, Wiggly-o. I don't know. It's
Piggly-o, Wiggly-o.
I wonder what Piggly Wiggly is in Spanish, if it's just the same. That's always interesting when I hear someone speaking Spanish and they stop and say like the English word right in the middle, just as you would.
If it's a proper name, that happens a lot. I remember Rocky IV, it was like, Rocky Balboa. And you're like, okay, that was, I heard Rocky Balboa. Yeah.
That's interesting, though, because it really did change everything.
Yeah.
And it also was the advent, in some ways, of the supermarket. It's the beginnings of that. It's going to put the mom and pops out of business because now the ones that can afford the 4 aisles and all those things, and you're not going to go anymore.
More space.
Yeah. Because it takes more to do this.
But like, it's almost like the Home Depot did that to, hardware stores, like the hometown True Value hardware stores, where you'd walk in and be like, I need this bolt.
Right.
And I need this size air filter. And they would immediately walk you to where it was. Yeah. Now you just go into these huge labyrinth stores. You just go down an aisle and there's nobody to help you.
Rarely.
You don't know what's going on.
Rarely. Or when they do, you ever see them like walk by the end and you kind of look because you need help?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, did he see me? Did he?
Yeah, it is.
I looked at him? Because they're on their way to help somebody else or whatever. You're like, yeah, but...
You hope they are.
I don't know what they're on.
Let me just tell you, I worked at one of those and I was on my way to the break room. Big time. I had an experience, John. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but speaking of break rooms and work environments, my car, I don't have a super nice car. It's a Hyundai. It's a hatchback, but it has an app on it where I can like I'll get a notification if my doors are unlocked, and I can lock my doors from the app.
That's fancy.
So I'm sitting in my house yesterday, and I'm like, I keep getting these notifications. Your doors are unlocked. I'm like, what is going on? I thought I already locked it. Because I was like, I don't want any of my driveway unlocked. It's fine. I'm here, but it's no big deal. Sure. And I have a good neighborhood, but whatever. So I lock the doors. I realized after like the second or third time of doing this that my car is at the shop. I dropped it off.
On the people trying to
dropped it off to get my tires rotated.
Wow.
And I have now made them think my car is a poltergeist, probably. They're just in the car. They just hear the doors just locking randomly, and they got to go find the key fob again. So I apologize to Firestone. I'm an idiot.
I will say, if there was some sort of paranormal force trying to mess with the people working in your car, couldn't they come up with something better?
It would be the most...
You know what we're going to do?
Yeah.
Was there something about that, like when they do all the things? What we're going to do again? We're going to shake this door.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't you just, attack them?
We're
like
going to make the lights flicker.
Over and over.
That'll get them.
Or one real trick. All right,
yeah.
Here we go.
All right,
we
John,
don't endorse paranormal things here, by the way. I'll talk about that.
This week, John, doesn't matter whether you endorse it or not. Okay. John, this week, 1950, Beetle Bailey comic strip debuted.
Okay.
And the reason I put it in here, this was about I think he was a service person. He was a private in the Army, Beetle Bailey. He had the green fatigues. Anyway, it would eventually have a circulation of 1,800 newspapers in more than 50 countries for a combined readership of 200 million daily.
Holy cow.
And I was just thinking, like, the scale of that. Will we ever again have something that affects 200 million people every day? I just don't see it. It's so diffused now.
I don't know. That's
like, do you think there's anything that 200 million people see every day?
I would imagine.
I mean, maybe like MSNBC or Fox News.
I was
just
going to
say
a CNN like post that.
But I'm talking about like entertainment. Would you think there's anything entertainment wise that 200 million people go, I got to catch Beetle Bailey today?
Something on TikTok? But you mean like something not
like everyday appointment viewing? 200 million people go
not something
to that
being
column.
Made by people, but something that's being made
something
for
that we
people.
all agree on. We don't have to agree that it's funny every day, but we all go check out Beetle Bailey because here it is. Like, and that's you understand how few people there were in 1950.
You know what it is now? It's the iPhone. It's no longer a thing being written for you. It's a device now where you go get what you want. I mean, that does affect that many people.
That's our Piggly Wiggly. It's in our hand.
Yeah.
We don't have a list anymore. That's, we go.
And they put the flip phone out of business.
The algorithm chooses what, it's tailoring an experience for you. I don't like it. But I mean, here we are. And we're probably being listened to on the iPhone. So
thank you guys.
iPhone, not a sponsor. John, this
don't
week.
Anger the iPhone.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Yeah. Finally, this week, 1639, Massachusetts banned the drinking of toasts. So, like no drinking toasts, no toasting.
Okay.
No saying cheers and saying like a toast to, not like trying to drink toast.
I don't think it's a drinking of toast. Isn't it a making of toast?
Toast is, I guess, the toasting of drinks. This says drinking toast, not the drinking of toast.
Thinking about like putting toast in a blender.
Like, man, this will not liquefy. I'm getting a fine powder here. Okay.
You couldn't make a toast anymore.
You couldn't make
as
toast.
You were drinking.
They were banned, I guess, as a part of some prohibition. Because I'm trying to remember when prohibition, if this was about prohibition. Massachusetts banned drinking toasts as it was deemed a useless ceremony, stating the common custom of drinking to one another is a mere useless ceremony and draweth on the abominable practice of drinking healths. So this is a very old statement.
Is it Puritan?
They're saying draweth and abominable. This is very
it's the 1600s.
Yeah, there were some buckles on these hats.
The truth is,
I'm guessing
that part of American history, everybody drank in general. It had to be one of the religious orders that
they decided though that because I guess they were just like, this feels very careless. Just be like, hey, let's drink to that, and you're just like, you're just drinking to anything now.
Yeah.
Which we all know that person.
Do we?
I'll drink to that. Maybe if you don't know him, it's because you are him, John.
Oh, my goodness.
You need to watch yourself.
And for you, we say it ceases to be a devil when it ceases to be a god. Come on now.
Hey now. That was John at the Labor Day cookout, chugging his fifth. No, I'm kidding around.
Johnny,
John doesn't chug.
No, I don't.
But anyway, the authorities were unable to enforce the law, by the way.
I'd say so.
And it was repealed in 1645, which would have been 6 years later. But for 6 years...
You could put in jail for making a toast.
I don't know if you got put in jail. You got highly reprimanded.
What if you got thrown in jail and you're like, as they close the door, you're like, you know what, dude, I drink to you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, is that how you... What are you going to do? You already locked me up.
He had a flask the whole time. Get him, swarm.
What if you're just drinking coffee to people?
That's true.
Yeah.
What if you're trying to drink toast for some reason? It's tough. That's a tough ask.
Johnny knows all about. You could tell Johnny's a really adept at the drinking culture.
I know a lot about the drinking.
We know about as much about the drinking culture as we do the drug culture. But
yeah, well, all I know is I watch a lot of after-school specials, and just keep your head on a swivel out there, everybody. It's rough.
People, I can't tell you how many times just walking through the store, there's someone lurking around the corner who tries to sell me drugs.
Yes.
I mean, I'm just like, they have a weird overcoat.
Those are pharmacists.
Oh.
They're a foot higher than me for some reason.
They're like, sir, this is your prescription. I'm like, whoa.
Hey, yeah.
How did you get my name on that? They're like, because you called it in.
Yeah. That's on you.
Yeah.
This is for your arthritis. Well, I felt something. It's fine.
I thought of a joke they used to tell the other day. You were talking earlier about you figuring out the church sort of market.
We're going to figure out why I don't tell it anymore by you
telling it.
You're going to tell a butchered version of it.
It was one of my favorite jokes in the beginning. And,
boy.
But I think it skirted the line maybe a little bit. Let's see if I can tell it.
Okay.
Okay.
Psych yourself up now.
I can't remember how you get into it. I can only remember the punchline. Let me see. I'll cue you, then you tell it.
Okay.
You would say, my dad used to be...
Oh, I don't know. My dad used to be what?
I was hoping you'd know the...
I don't remember this. I used to have one...
He used to... But instead of this, he used to sit around in this.
I don't remember this.
Really, Johnny?
No.
My dad was a workaholic. But instead of
going to work, he sat around and drank all day. That's actually really fun. I remember that one, yeah.
It was a great joke.
Instead of my dad going to work, he sat around and drank all day. He's a real workaholic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, I think like...
It's a dark one.
I think it got, it was a little edgy. For everyone whose dad was an alcoholic, you were like, I probably should not do that as much.
But podcast is totally safe on the podcast.
Oh, yeah, there's no...
Listen,
we're dissecting it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. We're deciding why I don't do it anymore.
Right. We're not enjoying it at all.
Now when I bring it back, you'll be like, John, I wasn't trying to encourage it.
No, I think I would still laugh. But, I mean, I get it. You're not trying to...
No, it's absurd. It's absurd.
It's absurd.
Okay.
As much
this whole
of what
show
we do
is
here
absurd.
Is absurd.
It is, John. John, you're writing some absurd things these days. How would some people find out more about your books?
Well, before I tell you about that, actually, there's a new book out I'd love for you guys to go check out. I'm going to put it on the...
Are you going to...
But my buddy, Jamar Tisby, put out a new book called The Spirit of Justice, True Stories of Faith, Race, and Resistance. And it's a lot of stories about people in the civil rights movement of our historical past. And I just think it's such an important work for right now. Jamar does a lot of important work, and he's been just an influential voice in a lot of believers' lives, and been very kind to me. So great guy doing good work. So check out that book, man. Spirit of Justice.
And he was a best-selling author of Color of Compromise.
Color of Compromise. Right. He wrote a book called I can't remember the second name. I don't want to butcher the second name of the book.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no.
How to Fight Racism. That's what it's called.
Yeah, How to Fight Racism.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's. I just think for me, I know there's a lot of people who are struggling. We can throw woke on terms and things like that. To me, and I told my wife that this morning. When you go to history, I think that's where that stuff gets neutralized for me. Especially when you go to the history of believers who are being a part of important social movements, but they're not doing it out of some desire to put forth a political agenda. They're doing it out of a desire to follow through on their faith in a way that brings justice to the oppressed and relief to those who need relief. They see them. And so to me, history brings that. And so that's why I love books like this, because it kind of takes away, like, you can't just use a modern term now to neutralize everything.
Right.
You're saying, let's see what others ahead of us who are following after Jesus, as we're trying to do, we're doing, and hopefully learn from their examples. Anyway, after that, why would you even want to read my books?
Now that you've selflessly promoted his, now you can shamelessly plug your...
I don't know. You can go to johndriver.com. You can find my Amazon author link there. But I've worked. Here's the thing. The things I'm most proud of, for the most part, are the people I've gotten to write with. And that's always fun for me because, man, there's some amazing stories. So you should go check it out. Got a couple coming out soon. My friend Beth McCord, I was able to work on. You'll notice my name's not on the front of that book, but I got to work with her some and on that book, and it's on parenting. It's a really, really good book. So check out Beth McCord's book on parenting if you like the Enneagram. I just think it was a really, really good book, actually. You should go check it out. It's a lot of fun. So, yeah.
John, how would someone become a patron of the show or learn more about the show or listen to past episodes of the show?
I think they would go to talkaboutthatpodcast.com. It's sort of like the hub of all things Talk About That.
Upper right-hand link if you want to support the show. We love our patrons. That's how you get ad-free content. Lower right-hand corner, the little voice bubble. That's how you send us a message. Or just go to hello@talkaboutthatpodcast.com.
Yeah. Yeah, that lower button gets you more ads. So
yes,
I'm just kidding.
We double down. No, we did. We hear from our listeners all the time, and we appreciate it, man. You guys are the best.
Yeah, we had a listener who actually binged every episode.
That's right. He wrote a note and said, he finally finished. He got to the end of the rainbow, and there was no pot of gold.
No.
Just despair.
And it was amazing. And so... sorry, my thing is messed up here.
Yeah, he was saying he had all kinds of references throughout the letter, like things that he says around the house that are from the show, which we love to hear.
I'm sorry, my search stuff is not...
We appreciate you, though, out there, all of you that listen. I will say, too, go to JonnieW.com.
Oh,
I'm adding
great.
Tour dates. You didn't even know what I was going to say.
I just made your website.
I'm adding tour dates all the time. I'm in Gadsden, Alabama this weekend, John. Saturday...
what part of
September the 7th.
Is it north, south, middle?
It is south of Birmingham.
Okay, it's between Birmingham and Montgomery.
Yes.
Okay.
I think. Maybe it's north of Birmingham. I don't know, John. It's about 3 hours from Nashville. Okay. So maybe it's north. But anyway, I'm going there, and I'm doing a fundraiser event, a silent auction and comedy event for a mental health day program called Agape Nation.
Fun.
Which they're trying to really expand that program. So it's a great cause.
Yeah.
Tickets are still available, and we want you to go. So if you live anywhere near Gadsden, this Saturday, September 7th, I will be there for one night only, and it's going to be a great time. Wow. And there are more dates coming out every day on the website.
Every day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, guys, you just keep following after what we're doing here. We'll keep trying to keep you informed about all the things that's going on with the podcast, and especially, man, go check out a Jonnie W show. Guys, if you've never been to one, you haven't lived. It's a lot of fun.
I'm going to bring back that old joke, see how it goes.
Yeah, let me know.
When it tanks.
This is a great example. I have no skin in this game at all.
Blame shifting will really start then.
Hey, guys, thanks for the time you spent with us. Let's do it again next week on
Talk About That.